So you're aiming for a one shot, but it sounds like interested in a campaign, huh? Don't worry about the rules; those will come in time. Any tips for prepping? Prepping for a first campaign. So I think that in my opinion, the best way to prep a campaign is to start with sort of what's the big idea, what's the central conflict that's going to drive things. Is there a dragon that is terrorizing the whole world, or maybe a series of them? Is there a lich? Is it political corruption? That may be a little bit too close to home instead of fantasy nowadays. So maybe it's like um, so let's assume it's like a lich, right? There's an evil wizard, an evil undead wizard. That's a pretty good standby. What you don't want to do, and this may sound counter to what I just suggested starting with, what you don't want to do is spend a lot of time planning things beyond session one, which sounds counterintuitive, right? It's like, why are we starting with the big bad if we're focused on the first session? Well, we don't want to spend too much time on the big bad. We want to know who they are. We're going to set them out on the horizon. That's the big idea. But we're going to take that big bad and start to think about, like, broadly speaking, what are the ramifications? What happens as a result of that being a threat? If the evil wizard is out there in a tower somewhere, how is the world impacted? And we're going to stair step that threat down until it's like level 1 party problem. So let's assume that maybe the evil wizard is like the brother to the king, which is why he's allowed to do the things that he does without the royal guard coming after him. Okay, well, that would maybe that would cause all sorts of sort of brewing tensions and plots against the king that would affect like the guilds and affect the basically whatever the factions are within the world, and those tensions would all the way down at the I'm skipping a few rungs, but all the way down at the parties level. Maybe that comes down to a couple of merchants who work for opposing guilds getting into a fist fight and the party getting involved to sort of you know calm things in the market square, right? Maybe one of the guys is has like some potion of summoning and uses it to attack the other, and there's chaos and the party gets involved, and that's like in that first session. It technically has nothing to do with the lich, evil, big bad, horrible wizard guy, but there are kernels of what that's going to be already, and then you can sort of let that unfold into the rest of the world, such that it's like, wow, I can't believe that we're going after a lich when we just started, basically settling a bar room brawl in the first session. So that first session is everything. I would, if what I just described is like, spend definitely 75 to 90% of your time on that first session, but reserve 10% to sort of just like sketch and outline, like, here's the big threat, here's why they're a big threat, here's how it affects everything, because that gives you something to kind of always be pointing things to, right? Why are these guys fighting? And then one of them says like, well, his guild's trying to drive mine out, or like they've been doing this horrible stuff, and then you can allow that kind of stuff to continue to develop over the course of the campaign. That's kind of how I approach planning, and it makes that core threat and what that core threat is really important, because you have to care enough about it and be excited enough about it that you want to think about it and the ramifications of that threat for an entire campaign. So my first successful campaign that's still going today, the big bad is basically a mortal who's trying to become a god again. So think of it like kind of like a twisted Indiana Jones. He's basically finding his old artifacts. Like he's basically like a fallen old god trying to get back to that earlier status. So everything, sort of the ripple effects of his horrible actions, his desperate actions to become a god again, that's what has sort of turned everything upside down for that campaign. Um, the second campaign that I did, uh, which is also still ongoing right now, um, was a lich who basically rose to power because he made a deal with an impending evil force to basically keep them at bay, and therefore has been a lich in sort of in hiding for many many years, and then the party joins his guild, not realizing he's evil. That's kind of the big picture there, but I think the big picture is important. But I think really, I'm not a big fan of crazy amounts of world building, except for where it impacts what those sessions, what that actual playtime is going to look like. Silas, pretty much everything is XPS. I don't think I have anything. I don't really work substantially in anything else. Like if you see a door, it's probably XPS. Yeah. True construct. Yeah. Bullet points. Yep. I definitely used to write out everything that I thought an NPC might say, just because I was like, I don't know what I need to prep, and there's really no trick to that. You just need experience to know what it is you need. Notes wise, we'll do a campaign prep at some point, like actually take some ideas and kind of go all the way through. Like here's what I would do to plan the campaign, and here's what I would do to plan the first session or two, and probably some prologues and stuff like that. We'll set up a whole sample campaign. Yeah, we'll do that at some point. You say the vocabulary is a fun one? Oh, am I using a lot? Sorry. I try not to use too many words that are, I guess, what's the word for them? Too many, it's not like protected words, but like words that need to be defined, like self-defining. Yeah. Jargon. Thank you, Construct. Why can't I think of the word that is specifically the word that's... Yeah, there's irony in that I couldn't think of that.